But why do you say that Islam is true? Before we get there, one more prerequisite must be made. How could there be only one of these? How come there's not three? For example, the triune situation. Because if there was an individuating factor that individuated and differentiated necessary being A from necessary being B, that would render either or both of them contingent. Because a contingent thing is differentiated in reality. And a necessary being cannot be differentiated from something else. But I'll give you an easier argument, which is the Quranic argument. مَا اتَّخَذَ اللَّهُ مِنْ وَلَدٍ وَمَا كَانَ مَعَهُ مِنْ إِلَهٍ إِذًا لَذَهَبَ كُلُّ إِلَهٍ بِمَا خَلَقَ وَلَعَلَ بَعْضُهُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ. Chapter 23, verse 91, that there couldn't be more than one God effectively because they would outstrip one another in power. There cannot be more than one overall power because an all-powerful agent by definition, yes, means that he has power over all other things. Nothing can supervene on his power capabilities. Moreover, there cannot be more than one overall will. لو كان فيهما آلهة إلا الله لفسدتا. In chapter 21, verse number 22. If there was in them, i.e. the heavens and the earth, more than one, the heavens and the earth would have been corrupt. Meaning what? You have to have one overriding will. Because it had been more than one will, it wouldn't be consistent. You couldn't explain the uniformity, the regularity, the stability of the universe. Because there is uniformity, stability and regularity. Without it you couldn't even do science. And there is uniformity, stability and regularity to the extent which it allows life to exist on the universe. That's a fact no one here will deny. There is life on the universe, and that the universe is uniform and regular and stable enough to allow such life to exist. What is the best explanation for this? One singular overarching will that doesn't lead to conflict. So that's why it's one God. But what about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Now there's many things I can say, and in 7 minutes I'll just mention one evidence. There are necessary and sufficient conditions for a word of God to be conceived as such, the word of God. I would put to the table today that one of the necessary conditions is that this cannot contain any contradictions. We are logicians here, The Quran says if this was from other than God, it would have been many contradictions inside of it. لَوَجَدُوا فِيهِ اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. The Quran, this is one of the necessary conditions. It's one of the only books to even posit this challenge, religious books, which is find the contradiction within it. Secondly, it's inimitable. Thirdly, it's preserved. We will argue all these points. However, what's the sufficient condition? I give you one argument and one argument only, which is the prophecies of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now I am claiming here, and I'm willing to be challenged today, that the prophecies of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam are the most accurate and numerous and frequent that come from an integrous source and unambiguous in human history. These five criterion that I've just mentioned, if you apply them to any other historical figure, it will collapse. For example, if you look at the Bible, Mark chapter number 13, you'll find that it says in one generation the heavens and the earth will be destroyed. Nostradamus made a prediction that in 177 years there will be famine and war and so on. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he made the following predictions. For example, I'll give you some. That the barefooted Arabs يَتَطَاوَلُونَ فِي الْبُنْيَانِ, that they will compete to see who creates the highest buildings. Now, we're seeing that the highest building in the world is in Burj Khalifa. How could the economic capabilities of these nations be such that if someone wanted to argue this was a self-fulfilling prophecy, that it was such? It couldn't be. Number two, that the Prophet ﷺ predicted the fall, the downfall of the Persian and the Roman Empire, the two greatest empires of that time, spanning millennia. Not only that the Muslims would overtake those empires. Number three, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ predicted the invasions of the Mongols. And I'm ready to give all the primary sources. This is very well known in the Islamic tradition. He told us how the Mongols would invade. And one of the biggest battles in Muslim history was Ain Jalut in 1260. The sacking of Baghdad was in 1258. And this is all connected to the prophecies of the Prophet. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ told us what kind of world we'll be living in. He said, the world in the future will be such that there will be so much interest. مَنْ لَمْ يَأْكُلْهُ أَصَابَتْهُ مِنْ غُبَارٍ. Whoever doesn't consume the interest, he will be affected by its dust. We're living in an economic system, the whole thing is interest, women busters, perpetuated or exacerbated at least by the interest systems of the banks. I think South Africa is no different. Number 5, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ told us that there will be an advent of sexually transmitted diseases due to an increased fornication. Number 6, the Prophet ﷺ told us that women will go into the workforce. Yes, I'm not sure if any of you have heard this one. حتى تعين المرأة زوجها في التجارة. This is a hadith of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. The woman will involve herself in business with her husband. This is a prophetic hadith. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ even told us about obesity that will become a phenomenon within his ummah. And many people in this room, I'm only kidding, says, you see what I mean? The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ told us exactly where Islam is going to spread. زُوِيَ لِيَ الْأَرْضِ, he said, فَرَأَيْتُ مَشْرِقَهَا وَمَغَرِبَهَا وَإِنَّ أُمَّتِي سَيَبْلُغُ مُلْكُهَا مَا زُوِيَ لِي مِنْهَا. That the earth has been projected to me and I saw its eastern parts and western parts, and all of the ummah will take what has been projected. Why does he say east and west and not north and south? Look at the map. He told us exactly where Islam will spread. He said it will go to Sindh al-Hind. It will go to India and Pakistan. He told us it will go to Egypt. He told us it will go to Asham, Jordan and Lebanon and these countries. Yemen. How could somebody get this so right? There's been no figure in human history who has predicted with such frequency and unambiguity the events of the future as Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And these are just some examples. I could go on for 2 hours.